Welcome back to the New Sentinel, folks. As always, I'm Chukwuka here with Sentinel Graves, Olga, and the one and only Duke Johnson. Today's episode, we got a real mess to unravel. Canada caving on tariffs with the U.S. You all saw the headlines. Prime Minister Mark Carney just flat out dropped those retaliatory tariffs after months of playing hardball with President Trump. All this elbows up talk from the liberal camp, and now elbows are most definitely down, huh?
Yeah, Chukwuka, it's something else. Reminds me of a standoff where one side keeps bluffing, but never really has the upper hand. Carney, with that campaign chest thumping, suddenly turns around, talks to Trump after weeks of silent treatment and says, "Fine, we're done with these countermeasures." There's a difference between election posturing and actual leverage. You see that all the time in military negotiations. Folks act tough, but the minute they realize they're isolated, backpedal city.
You got that right, Sentinel. Elbows up until it's time to face the music. Canada thought they had backup, maybe even tried rallying Japan, the EU, forming a whole anti-US cartel. But in the end, the dominoes fell the other way. Trump took his sweet time, barely even picking up the phone, and suddenly, all these trade partners are cutting deals with the U.S., left Canada standing alone at the school dance.
And let's not forget the actual people feeling the pinch in all this. While leaders battle over tariffs and play their power games, it's workers and families whose jobs and livelihoods get squeezed. I mean, Canada's unemployment's higher than the U.S., rents are still sky high, and what did any of the elbows-up bravado accomplish for average Canadians? It's just political theater until regular folks end up footing the bill.
That's it, Olga. And I've seen this before. International military ops where everyone talks a big game at the start. But if you don't hold the cards, real politics sets in fast, trust me. Carney and the Liberals bet on a world alliance against the U.S., just like in those posturing sessions at a NATO meeting. But when you're the only one left standing on principle, you're just standing alone. Sometimes, talk is cheap when you got no leverage.
That's a fact. And Trump, say what you will, he's all in for America. That hot as a pistol line, he meant it. Carney had months to make a move, but tried to settle things the night before the tariffs hiked up. Ain't nothing like calling in a favor when your chips are down. But by then, nobody's listening unless you got something real to offer. That's the brutal reality.
And in the end, the U.S. didn't even have to give anything back. Canada just dropped the tariffs, hoping to keep what little trade access they had. Nothing in return. That's not a win. That's just damage control, brother.
With damage control as the new normal, here comes the next wave, the Alberta pipeline shutdown. The federal government, again Carney and his climate commitments, slammed the door on a major cross-border project, even when investors and provinces lined up to move billions in Alberta's oil into U.S. refineries. Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith didn't just get mad, she rallied.
Olga's right. This ain't just another pipeline fight. This is a full-on political storm. I mean, Alberta's always carried a heavy load, sending billions out in equalization. Then Ottawa turns around and says, "No, thanks. We don't want your energy corridor." Danielle Smith stood up, and Saskatchewan and Ontario locked arms with her. That's basically a provincial uprising. Hell, almost like a civilian task force when D.C. tries to micromanage operations downrange. I've seen what happens when the guy on the ground gets silenced. The whole system starts looking for workarounds.
Yeah, and let me jump in here. Boots on the ground, right, Sentinel? Whenever command up top ignores the field situation, morale goes right down the drain. It's textbook. And Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, they're forming their own kind of coalition. Kinda reminds me of when a unit, frustrated by headquarters, just carves its own path out in the AO. That's what we're seeing. They're even looking into legal and economic options, cutting past Ottawa. That's not just protest. That's insurgency-level pushback, if you ask me.
See, and the Americans aren't thrilled either. Ottawa might think they're showing leadership on climate or whatnot, But U.S. companies banked on that pipeline. Supply chain, price stability, refineries in the Gulf Coast, all expected Alberta's oil, not some last-minute policy reversal. It's not just Canadians upset. Washington's got an axe to grind now, too. That's major global fallout.
And it's always these communities on the line. Oilfield workers, families, small businesses, they suffer first. Schools without funding, hospitals that can't hire, all because Ottawa blocks investment without listening to provinces. For years, pipelines have gotten tied up in politics, but now it's about respect and autonomy, not just oil.
Exactly, Olga. When top brass only cares about optics or external politics, not ground truth, you lose trust, just like Alberta's doing now, exploring alternate corridors, pushing for Sovereignty Act powers, maybe even thinking direct trade with U.S. states. This is going to be one hell of a ride, and it ain't ending soon.
Well, speaking of a hell of a ride, let's talk about the storm that's brewing now, provincial rebellion. This pipeline scrap has poured gasoline on a fire that's been smoldering out west for years. We're talking economic sovereignty, autonomy, some folks even throwing out the separation word. All cause Ottawa's climate rules and regulations keep provinces from developing resources or trading freely.
And Alberta's not the only one feeling burned. Saskatchewan, BC, even Ontario, they're asking hard questions. Who actually calls the shots here? If Ottawa stifles the economic drivers in the name of global climate targets, then the provinces are left to pick up the pieces. That's why you're seeing all this swelling talk of new alliances, sovereignty acts, legal challenges. Once regional resentment sets in, it ain't so easy to put the lid back on, trust me.
What's wild is the dollar cost, not just the politics. We're looking at billions in lost revenue, jobs vanishing, energy partnerships on hold. The Americans lose too. The U.S. counts on Canadian oil for energy security and price stability. All this federal inflexibility puts everyone at risk, not just Ottawa's approval ratings. Reminds me of a campaign with complicated supply lines. When you lock down the only highway, everyone goes hungry. Soldiers, families, civilians. That's the real fallout.
For me, it's the human cost that stings most. When policy becomes a battleground, the casualties are working families, towns losing lifelines, communities watching opportunities evaporate. We've seen this pattern before, not just in Canada. Anywhere national politics ignore regional realities, people pay with jobs, services, even dignity. And as more decisions get made for world optics instead of local needs, frustration will only grow deeper.
Right there with you, Olga. Alberta's case isn't just about oil. It's about whose future gets to count. You keep choking off the folks who build and feed the country. Eventually they look for new ways out, period. If Ottawa don't listen, someone else will come knocking. Maybe U.S. states, maybe global buyers. Like I always say, you can't stuff a genie's courage back in the bottle once it's out.
That's a wrap for today, folks. We broke down Canada's elbows up to elbows down trade retreat, the pipeline showdown, and this spreading talk of regional rebellion. The only guarantee is that none of this is settled. More battles coming, both in Parliament and on the streets. Watch the space, because we sure will. Sentinel, Olga, Duke, thanks for bringing the heat as always.
Anytime, Chikwuka. Always good to get tactical with you all.
Thanks, everyone. I hope the next episode holds better news for families and workers out west.
Stay sharp, folks. And if you don't like how HQ's running things, maybe it's time you start calling your own shots. Signing off till next time.
All right, everyone. That's it from the New Sentinel. We'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.